Who would you rather get drafted at number 1 this year, James Wiseman or LaMelo Ball? If you chose LaMelo, please just click off the video. I don't want to hear LeVar preach about how good his boy is. This world doesn't need more LeVar. If you chose James Wiseman, then please subscribe down below. You'll make our channel great. Let's jump right into the video on if James Wiseman will get drafted number 1 in the 2020 NBA Draft. Wiseman is a player who has many conditions to occupy the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft, but because of all the problems that led to his suspension while in the NCAA, he did not have the opportunity to show off on the court as much as he'd like, especially because of the countless legal problems that kept him from playing. Wiseman might go down in history as the most drama-filled number 1 pick in history. Although there aren't many videos showcasing the raw talent that Wiseman has, he's certainly turning some heads with his incredible style of playing, dominating the NCAA. Teams might have to take a risk in drafting Wiseman at number 1, but the reward will outrank the risk. Golden State Warriors general manager Bob Myers said he would consider changing the team's first-round pick. But if they want to get number 1 and keep it, it's hard to imagine passing a 7-foot player on James Wiseman, who has a huge advantage and fits a need that the Warriors are missing. The former Memphis player has a wingspan of 7'6" and would fit perfectly into the Golden State system as a ball threat that can protect the rim. With the centerpieces of a championship contender, Wiseman could be a key player in keeping his title-winning window open. And what other team could Wiseman really go to as the number 1 pick in the draft? Well, some argue that he would fit in very well with the Minnesota Timberwolves. In addition to helping with defense and improving rebound control, James Wiseman can make a big difference on offense. The Timberwolves are one of the worst teams when it comes to scoring. Wiseman would be a welcome addition from day 1 as both a large pick-and-roll player and a cutter with his size, athleticism, and can knock down threes at will. This would be a great boost for D'Angelo Russell, who had the benefit of playing with a great player in Jarrett Allen in his only All-Star season. So there is no shortage of interest despite everything that was going on with the player last year. For example, attorneys at the University of Memphis center, James Wiseman, announced that the player was declared ineligible by the NCAA. The reason for his legal ineligibility to play for Memphis East was because Penny Hardaway was his assistant coach at the school, and their relationship was considered a coach bond. According to Sudu Upadhyay of WMC Action News 5, Ballin said Hardaway financed Wiseman's and his family's move to Memphis while Wiseman was in high school. And although it occurred before Hardaway became Memphis's head coach, the NCAA has labeled him a booster.
I don't think he leaves if he never sits out. He loves the game. He wants to play. Came the other day and said I wanted to pursue my pro career. Obviously, sitting out 12 games, I couldn't imagine, sitting out 12 games.
As a result, Wiseman sued the NCAA, and we think it's the least he could do given the circumstances. However, the decision was later overturned because the rule was unclear in its application. But then something else happened. The NCAA showed no leniency in its appeal to lessen its previously detained 12-game suspension. The NCAA announced that its initial punishment, which had kept the Tigers' star player from competing until January 12th, had been upheld. The Division I Committee for the Reinstatement of Student Athletes upheld the staff's decision regarding student-athlete James Wiseman of the University of Memphis. He is eligible to return to competition on January 12th, the NCAA said in a statement, and that's largely why there isn't as much archival material circulating about Wiseman as there is to help franchises make their draft decision. Still, the player was ranked number 1 in the 2019 draft class by 24/7 Sports, and is considered a candidate to be number 1 in the 2020 NBA Draft. Can you believe it? We really shouldn't be too surprised by the same numbers. In Memphis's 97-64 win in the season opener against South Carolina State on a Tuesday, Wiseman scored 28 points and added 11 rebounds in 22 minutes. Will began his career at Ensworth School in Nashville, Tennessee, before attending Memphis East in Memphis, Tennessee. Wiseman transferred after playing for Hardaway's team in Nike's Elite Youth Basketball League. After going 22-14 and reaching the second round of the NIT in Hardaway's first season at the helm, Memphis entered the 2019-20 season as the nation's 14th team. He was largely based on the fact that 24/7 Sports had Memphis ranked as number 1 in the 2019 draft class with 2 5-star commitments, including Wiseman, and 5 4-star commitments. Forwards Lance Thomas and DJ Jeffries also played a bigger role after coming off the bench in the opening game. But how does Wiseman, one of the top candidates to be number 1 in the next draft, play? In the first place, he is a 7-foot, 242-pound player born on March 31, 2001, in the city of Nashville. His name has already been in the mouth of the specialists and projects for the draft, standing out at high school level and also with the U.S. junior teams. His consideration was so positive that ESPN ranked him as the best prospect in the country, facing his entry into the NCAA from the hand of Memphis. However, Wiseman's 2019 to 2020 was far from what was expected, since from what we told you before, he could only play 3 games with the Tigers, during which he averaged 19.7 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3 blocks, with a 77 field goal percentage in just 23 minutes of action. Since December, the player has been inactive and is already looking forward to his jump to the NBA. As a strength, the first thing that jumps into Wiseman's eyes is his unbeatable physical and athletic condition. Not only is he a tall and explosive player, but he also adds long arms, agility, speed, and fluidity of movement. In that aspect, it is impossible to find a better project for Draft 2020. At this point, most of Wiseman's points come in defining situations, where he can take advantage of those natural tools, finishing alley-oops, or other types of plays created by his teammates. His 20 of 25 shooting near the rim in all 3 games with Memphis speaks volumes about his dangerousness near the hoop. Another way Wiseman adds offensively is by charging the offensive rebound. The sample is very small, but in 69 minutes while playing in the NCAA, Wiseman managed to grab 13 offensive rebounds. The player also takes advantage of his athletic ability to add in transition and is hard to stop once he gets going. A 7-foot, 242-pound center running full speed at you might just be one of the scariest things in the world. One of the intriguing points in his game is his perimeter play. Currently, it is very limited, but it shows glimpses of a talent that he will probably develop in the NBA. Occasionally, Wiseman would pull up from half court and score during his high school career, something that LaMelo made famous that Wiseman has worked on and has even surprised himself with some of the triples that he's scored. His mechanics are not the best, and he has a lot to work with, but the flashes of that aspect of his game are there. Another point in favor of his current touch, he scored 19 of 27, 70%, while at the line with the Tigers, an interesting number for a player of his characteristics and age. The number is well above the 24 and 41, 59%, he had scored in AAU basketball. Beyond how effective he can be in attack, his defensive potential is probably even more interesting. The most important thing on that side has to do with his immense defensive ability. He recorded 9 blocks in his 69 NCAA minutes and, for example, he shipped 6 of them into the crowd in 23 minutes of play at the prestigious Nike Hoop Summit in 2019. Wiseman is a true specialist in this area. More defensive virtues? He has an excellent vertical and is not limited to protecting the rim, but has enough agility to go out and score outside the paint. And, of course, Wiseman also has his weaknesses, starting with the already mentioned very little shooting at the university level. Teams will be selecting you based on what you did in your high school years, plus some exhibition events. Offensively, the Nashville native is now a rather limited player. Beyond the flashes he shows on the perimeter, almost all of his points come as a finisher, and he brings little as a shooter, low post player, or creator. Those limitations are also apparent as a passer. He registered only 1 assist during his short time in Memphis and offers very little in that area. The ball doesn't usually pass through his hands unless it's to take a shot or drive to the basket. Defensively, he also has his shortcomings, mainly related to fundamentals. Some of this we saw during the game against the University of Oregon, where he quickly got into foul trouble, falling into the hands of his opponents. His tendency to always be looking for the block can occasionally play against him. Coming out of high school, there were some questions about his work ethic and intensity, which will only be answered once we see more of him on the court. In turn, he must strengthen his body and be more physical in some defensive situations. If you had to compare him to other NBA players, he plays an advanced role and likes to set up heavy screens for his teammates. He likes to drive in the paint and finish strong. He is very impressive in pick and roll, drawing comparisons to the pick and roll style of Dwight Howard and Hassan Whiteside. He usually plays more around the hoop, so he is more of a back-to-back player, although his later moves also needed to be developed. What do you think? Do you see Wiseman getting drafted number 1 in the 2020 draft? And if so, which team do you think he would go for? Leave us your opinion in the comments. We hope you enjoyed the video. We post Monday through Friday, so make sure to hit the bell icon to be notified, and don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe down below. Check out some of these videos.